This is CBC Here and Now.
If you have these troubled youth who believe that it's okay to be in an unhealthy relationship, it's okay to be abused, it's okay to be a partner of domestic violence.
Breaking the cycle of abuse, Nain is marking Red Dress Day for the first time. Well, it's spent more time in a museum than a hockey rink in recent years, but one of the oldest sporting trophies is back. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Peter Cowan. Today is Red Dress Day, a national day for awareness of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The Nunavut government in Labrador is working to break a cycle of abuse in its region. For the first time, it's holding Red Dress Day events in Nain. Take a look.
Nain, which also has the highest Inuit population along the coast, also has the highest number of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls and family members in the community. We have the word Indigenous right in the middle of the acronym. We are overrepresented in many statistics, not only within the province but within Canada as well, as being murdered, high suicide rates. That has come from many years of trauma, many years of colonization, and this has passed down to the younger generation. What we'd like to do is to create an awareness and education for young boys and girls to understand that they can live in a healthy relationship, that they can participate with their partner who they choose to be with in a healthy way, emotionally, sexually, or any way that they choose. If you have these troubled youth who believe that it's okay to be in an unhealthy relationship, it's okay to be abused, it's okay to be a partner of domestic violence, and if these young youth see it within a community and that it's okay, they think it's okay as well. With any trauma, it's a cycle, so the cycle just continues from generation to generation, just like residential schools. It just keeps going from one generation to the other and it just flows. So you're trying to break that cycle of many, many years. It starts with the older generation breaking that cycle and showing the children and the youth that they are worthy, that they are loved, and that they deserve to be in a healthy relationship in their lives.
Meanwhile, in Corner Brook, there was a call to remember and to do better in the future. More than 100 people gathered at the Miigwetderum Garden for a red dress ceremony. The event, organized by the Halapu First Nations, featured smudging, poster making, drumming, and songs.
Indigenous women and girls have a right to feel safe in their homes, their communities, and wherever they live across Turtle Island. We have begun to shine a light on the darkness that colonialism, racism, and especially violence has had on the lives of Indigenous women, girls, two-spirited, their families, communities, and nations.
Amongst our governments, I make this plea. Please find our girls, find our women, before they join the stars forever. And for those who have already crossed the Rainbow Bridge of Light, find peace, my sister, as I fight for you. Miigwech Lemulek, we remember you.
We have work to do in our province, so I'm so glad we're here today as a community to remember what happened in the past, but to think about what we could be doing in the future. It has to get better for all peoples. It has to get better for women and girls. And for those men that are here, we have to also think of the respect that needs to be paid to women.
It's been something very special to me. I find myself emotional today because I think of the women that I painted in that circle. And I don't think anyone here in this garden here today has not been affected by violence in one way or another.
Remember me, down the road, hand in hand, you and me.
Well, in other news, a colorful community cleanup is underway in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and there's about 10,000 reasons for people to take part. Here now's Heidi Adder explains.
It just began with a couple of us talking about how much garbage was around.
As the snow begins to melt away, a not-so-pretty sight is revealed. Trash, and lots of it. A group of business owners in Happy Valley Goose Bay are banding together to do something about it. and people have really jumped on board.
Nobody could even probably guess that it would grow as big as it has. In a little over a week and a half, we have over 70 businesses that have contributed to donations, garbage bags, money donations, gas, prizes, you name it. When people, whatever you ask for, they're like, here you go, we'll help.
There's an incredible $10,000 worth of prizes up for grabs for anyone who sends a picture of themselves picking up trash. There's a barbecue, airplane tickets, and special prizes for people who dress up.
The costume part of the prizes is to make it fun. It's to make people laugh and smile. And when people are out driving around, they ask questions. Why are those people dressed up? Why are they out doing that? And that creates buzz, which creates people to want to join in.
Organizers say this year's trash and litter is going to be too much for the town to tackle alone.
I think that if they were left to do this initiative on their own, that they would have failed miserably. I don't think that any one entity could have taken this on, and we don't want to put that on them. We want it more as a positive aspect, and if everybody chips in like they have by Sunday, this town will be cleaned up.
Ring Michelin hopes by the time the weekend is over, the trash is all gone. The cleanup kicked off on Thursday and will continue throughout the weekend.
I think if everybody does a little bit, that'll create less work for everybody.
Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
A fire closed part of East Whitehills Road in the east end of St. John's today. The fire broke out at A1 Automotive just after 11 o'clock. Firefighters were able to knock down the fire within a couple of hours, but there was serious damage to parts of the building. Fortunately, no one was injured. Well, you're paying less at the gas pumps again today. The province's Public Utilities Board dropped the price of gas by more than 8 cents a litre. A litre of gas is now around $1.62 on the Avalon, as high as $2.06 along the coast of southern Labrador. Today's price adjustment was unscheduled, but follows a small decrease yesterday.
Good evening, everyone. Heather Gillis filling in for Ashley with your weather headlines here on the Avalon Peninsula. The dreariness is going to continue, that gray weather that we've been seeing overnight and into tomorrow. Many other parts of the island saw a nice day today and into Labrador as well. Sunday, though, looking slightly warmer for many parts of the province, and we could see a change in the weather pattern possibly next week, especially for us here on the Avalon. Fingers crossed on that. Let's take a look at our current conditions. Currently a little bit brighter here in St. John's, 1 degree, feeling like -5 with the wind chill, but it's the gusts to 50 that we are contending with right now. So winds the story there, and you can see that this is the weather system that is bringing all that dreariness to the east coast of the island and to coastal Labrador here as well. Taking a look at our future tracker, pretty clear right now, but we're going to see more cloud moving in across the island by almost midnight, and then some more cloud as we go into Saturday, and some flurries here for coastal Labrador and parts of the island as well. We'll have more on that a little later in the show.
Over the past few weeks, we've been bringing you stories about the stalled snow crab fishery in Newfoundland and Labrador. Harvesters have been holding out on this year's season in search of a better price. But what's at stake if the boats stay tied up? The broadcast's Todd O'Brien breaks down some industry numbers.
So, what's going on with the crab fishery? Well, here we are. It's 2023. These boats are tied up. A lot of them should be out fishing crab. But you might remember the pandemic. 2020, people had a lot of free time in their hands, stayed home, weren't out eating at restaurants. So, in the United States, especially the #1 market, people could splurge. They bought a lot of snow crab. 2021, price ends up at $7.60 a pound. It rolls into 2022, $7.60 a pound. That's a lot of money, worth $756 million here on the wharf for fish harvesters. But what happened was sales started to slow in the States, inventories built up, and now we're down to $2.20 a pound. So, where are we today? Originally, the Fish Harvesters Union, the FFAW, was hoping for at least $3.48 a pound for their crab. The fish price setting panel decided with the producers and aimed at $2.20 a pound. Now, for $2.20 a pound, maybe some of the bigger boats with bigger quotas can go out there and make some money. Some can for sure. But there's lots of harvesters out there for $2.20 a pound. They say they can't break even or they can't make money. You know, some of them have bought licenses. They spent $400,000 or $500,000 for crab licenses, and interest rates have gone up, and $2.20 a pound is just not going to cut it. So people are in a bit of a pickle. Price of gas, diesel has gone through the roof. Bait, supplies, everything costs more. So that lower price is putting the squeeze on a whole bunch of people. So we're at a bit of a standstill. So what does this mean for Newfoundland and Labrador? Did I mention that this fishery is worth $756 million landed value at the wharf? At least it was last year. That kind of money supports plant workers, hundreds, thousands of plant workers in 22 plants across Newfoundland and Labrador, in Labrador, places like Bonavista, places like Triton. That money is new money that comes into these communities, and it trickles down in terms of graders, truck drivers, people who work in the grocery store, dealerships in St. John's. That's a lot of money. It's a mega project, and it's all in rural Newfoundland generally, so it's a big deal.
Well, some of the East Coast Music Awards were handed out in Halifax last night. It was the first of 2 awards nights, with 15 awards being handed out. Well, Newfoundland's Kelly Loader was the only musician so far to win more than 1 award. Fortunate Ones from St. John's took home Folk Recording of the Year, and the event was hosted by Trent McClellan from This Hour Has 22 Minutes. The remaining awards are going to be given out on Sunday. Well, hockey history is on display tonight at DF Barnes Arena. It's the last high school tournament of the season. It's underway in St. John's, and it's named after the Boyle Trophy. The Boyle Trophy is now so old that it's considered an artifact, and typically you only get to see it at the rooms. And that's where our Terry Roberts went today to learn about the trophy.
The Boyle Trophy has a very long history and legacy in Newfoundland. Now, the Boyle Trophy is the second oldest hockey trophy in North America, next to the Stanley Cup. Those people who know a little bit of Newfoundland, St. John's, and hockey history can tell you many, many stories about the Boyle Trophy, and I hear them from the alumni at St. John's all of the time.
This is the Stanley Cup of Newfoundland, and it comes from 1903. Sir Cavendish Boyle, he was the one who donated it in 1903. The Stanley Cup dates from 1893, this was 10 years later.
So why is the Boyle Trophy back in the spotlight today? So at St. Bon's, we are working hard to kind of reclaim our hockey history and to develop our hockey program at the school. So we decided to run a hockey tournament this weekend for Tier 2 teams, and we decided to call it the Boyle Memorial Invitational Hockey Tournament as a kind of a little throwback and a nod to the legacy of the Boyle Trophy.
We have 8 Tier 2 teams. From Clarenville, from Avondale, from Mobile, and then a few teams around St. John's. And we had 3 games yesterday, and the buzz in the rink has been phenomenal. Lots of parents, lots of spectators, and we're so excited to have our opening ceremonies tonight at 6 o'clock at DF Barnes, and we'll have the Boyle Trophy there so everyone can have photos and can actually see it and view it.
St. Bon's has won it more than any other recipient in its 100-year history. It's quite emotional to actually stand next to it because, first of all, it's actually a beautiful trophy, and there's some incredible names on it, and so it's worth kind of studying it just to see the names. But you know, for St. Bon's, we have a long history. The school opened in 1856. We had our first hockey team starting in 1899. And that hockey team is older than the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens, just to name a few. So our hockey history goes really, really a long ways back.
It's Newfoundland hockey history in an artifact. And for St. Bon's to have won this trophy 27 times is tremendous, and it shows our hockey history.
Let's be clear, you're not going to be awarding the Boyle Trophy.
No.
Teenagers will not be skating around the ice at DF Barnes on Sunday with this trophy over
no,
their heads.
They cannot, because it's an artifact right now at the rooms. So we actually have medals, for gold and silver medals, for the teams that are going to play in that championship game on Sunday. And we really wish all the teams the best. We would love to see St. Bon's win the Boyle Memorial tournament. We'll have to wait and see, but that would be the crowning glory of the season, and a great end to the season.
Well, interestingly, it may be an artifact now, but that trophy has had some rough and tumble times. At one point, it had to be fished out of the Waterford River, where it was left after a night of partying after a team won it. So it's seen a bit of abuse over the years.
What? They discovered these two wonderful cellars.
A surprising discovery deep below the streets of Carbonear. We'll take you there just after Heather's weather.
And in the weather, we've got a risk of freezing drizzle for the Avalon and parts of the Bonavista Peninsula tonight and into tomorrow. We'll have that and more, plus your weekend weather coming up.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. Early bird prize deadline is midnight tonight. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
You know, when I talk to people about the weather, here in St. John's, it seems like everyone's kind of in a bit of a funk. Like days and days of this wet, drizzly, gray.
Yeah.
Seems to be getting to people.
I feel a little like Eeyore today. It's very...
And I know other parts of the province,
to-
like Western Labrador, with beautiful warm temperatures, they're
That's
probably
right.
laughing right now going,
Yeah.
ah, stupid townies and their bad weather.
The rest of the island, you know, if you look at the road cams, you can see sun and cloud. It was like beautiful into central Newfoundland today, but not here, and that is going to continue, unfortunately.
Oh.
So, darn.
Well, let's at least find out the details,
Yes,
shall
let's
we?
take
Even if
a
it's
look.
not going to be great.
All right, so today's highs, as you can see, here on the East Coast, 2 in St. John's, a little warmer down in Cape Race, but that cool trend continues along the north coast of the island, 4 in Bonavista, 2 in Twillingate, and then you've got the warmer weather on the west coast with 14 in Stephenville and 13 in Port aux Basques and Burgeo. So the west coast, you had a much nicer day than we did here on the east coast. Beautiful weather, temperatures at least into central and western Labrador. But again, you see these cool temperatures here along coastal Labrador. Let's take a look at how the wind chill is going to factor into this tonight, because for the island, especially here along the north coast of the island, we'll see some wind chill values. It will be colder than your posted temperature, and the same thing up here into Labrador as well, while the values will be a little bit more true on the west coast and into central and western Labrador. Our future tracker here now, so we can see the clearing here, but what we're going to see in the overnight hours as we head towards midnight, we're going to see a little bit more cloud moving here across the island. You can see it on coastal Labrador and clearer here through central western Labrador, of course, like we were just mentioning. And into Saturday, that cloud continues to move across the island, and we will see some scattered flurries here across much of the island and for coastal Labrador as well. Tonight, some freezing drizzle on the menu for the northern Avalon, Bonavista, Clarenville, and Terra Nova, and that will continue into tomorrow. You take a look at our temperatures, -1 for much of the east coast down here in the Boot and Marystown, a degree warmer at 0 in May, I know. A little cooler, warmer, excuse me, in Port aux Basques. And as we head up into the west coast, we will pick up a few flurries, just some clouds along the south coast tonight, but some flurries for the west coast, for central, and in St. Anthony tonight should be a mix. It could be rain, it could be flurries, it could be drizzle. So your temperature is going to be around 0 degrees. So it depends on where you are on that side of 0. Some flurries into Cartwright, but for Labrador, as you see here, it'll be a cloudy night with your temperatures ranging from -4 to 0 degrees, depending on where you are in Labrador. The winds, let's talk about those. The wind gusts here on the east coast, you know, 50, about that tonight. We had some 60 gusts earlier today, but as we go through the night, we'll see some of those winds back off a little bit as we head on into Saturday. So they'll be in the 40 range there for you. And moving on to our future tracker again, starting Saturday morning, 6 a.m. If you're up to watch the Coronation, if you are on the island, it will likely be overcast. And you could see some flurries down here, you know, on the Burin Peninsula, some parts of the south coast, and in St. Anthony Straits, coastal Labrador area there as well. You could see a few flurries as we go through Saturday. We could see a little bit of clearing through western parts of the island and in through Labrador, but again, this east half of the island looks like it will be a cloudy day. Now, for tomorrow, we should have some showers in the afternoon for the southern Avalon, and then in St. John's, we will have some of that freezing drizzle in the morning, and then some precipitation chance of in the afternoon. Temperatures here really between, you know, 4, 5 degrees, 7 though in Marystown, where we will see some afternoon chance of showers as well. That chance of showers continues in the afternoon for the Conagra Peninsula, some mix and some showers possible in central as well. Now heading a little further west for tomorrow. Looks a little nicer here on the west coast. Some sun and cloud for Port aux Basques, picking up a few flurries possible on the west coast. And as we head on up into Gros Morne and up the west coast, some flurries possible there and some cloud. Now, as we head up into the rest of Labrador, looking like beautiful day in central Labrador and sunny and 8 on the coast in Nain. We'll have your long range coming up a little later.
Well, you never know what you'll find when you start digging in a historic community like Carbonear. Construction workers have uncovered some archaeological treasures that were buried beneath the streets of downtown. It started with the discovery of a small stone archway, but led to the finding of something truly special, a pair of pristine stone cellars. The CBC's Jessica Singer takes us inside.
Okay, so this is what we found when we came in the other day.
What?
And yeah, fantastic, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, totally intact cellar from 200 to 300 years ago, I would say. And this is exactly the way it was found, perfectly preserved, right? As the chair of the Heritage Society, we're just floored when the construction workers and engineers called us and said, guess what we found? I said, I don't know, maybe a few rocks. 2 cellars, not 1, fully intact, underneath the streets of Carbonear.
I've never stood inside a tiny little cave like this. I can almost fit in. It's small.
Yeah.
So this is crazy. It's wild.
Very interesting. Who built it? Where were the people from? Is this linked to a particular family in Carbonear? You know, it's all kinds of questions can be answered as research is done.
How were you made aware of this?
Well, last Thursday, I was out for a walk, and I noticed something in the ground where the dig site was. So I was just curious. I took a few pictures.
My name is Frank Budd. I'm the mayor of the town of Carbonear.
What are we looking at over there?
Well, as you can see, we have a hole that we're digging out for the downtown revitalization. And then when they did that, they discovered some kind of structure made out of stone from way back. It's probably about 10 feet deep, and it's probably about 6 or 7 feet high. But the archaeological people from provincial government were here. They did a little bit of an investigation, so they would know a little bit more. Well, after we thought that was the end of the story, and then that was last week, and then all of a sudden, we found these 2 chambers inside. So now the plot thickens, as they say.
All right, so this is the place?
Here we go.
What?
This is the cellar that we found when the workers came in and investigated to put a pipe through for a sewer. They discovered these 2 wonderful cellars, pristine condition. What it was used for, who knows? People knew about it, but not everyone knew about it. Previous residents told us that as children, they used to play down here, and they were never allowed to go through these doors. And nobody really knew what was in here.
Well, the first thing I say, well, what a tourist attraction this could be, you know, because I mean, we're spending a lot of money to revitalize the downtown, and now this is just an addition to it. So we're really, all of council is certainly really excited about it.
What about this is so astonishing to you?
It's just that it's so pristine. It's like it was made yesterday. There's no holes in the walls. There's no gaps. We've been asked about this. This is spray foam. So someone obviously has come in here and thought, I'll put a bit of spray foam around here and stop the leaks because I might want to store something in here. But other than that, it's a time capsule. And we'll have it for future generations, hopefully. They know something is beneath their footsteps as they walk the streets of Carbonear.
In the past, coronations have been a big deal here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Just how big a deal? Well, we're here at the rooms, and we'll show you some of the artifacts from coronations past. That's coming up. Welcome back to Here Now, and we have some breaking news for you right now. A tentative deal has been reached that could end the nearly month-long tie-up in the crab harvest. We learned just moments ago that the Fisheries Union and the Association of Seafood Producers have reached an agreement. Harvesters are going to be consulted over the weekend, and the fishery could begin in a few days if there's acceptance. Here's what we know about that deal. Well, the FFAW president, Greg Preddy, says Premier Andrew Furey arranged for both sides to sit down this afternoon, and in a major concession, the companies have agreed to lock in the minimum price at the wharf at $2.20 per pound for the entire season. That's notable because the market has slipped since the arbitrated price was set last month, and harvesters were worried that if they went fishing, the price could drop even further. Preddy described this as a very significant achievement. There's another part to the deal, though, trip limits. In order to avoid a chaotic harvest, boats will go to sea in an orderly fashion. We'll have more for you as this develops, and you can also follow along on our website, cbc.ca/nl. Coronation of King Charles III tomorrow is going to be recognized here in Newfoundland and Labrador. There's plans for a parade and a ceremony at Government House, but coronations in the past have been a much bigger deal. To tell me more about it, we're here at the Rooms with Maureen Peters, who's curator. Give me an idea. During those previous coronations, like Queen Elizabeth II, when she was coronated, what sort of things happened here?
Well, they had this huge celebration. The IOD, or Imperial Order of the Daughters of the Empire, had a big ball. There was parades. There was parades in other communities all across Newfoundland and Labrador. Every child in Newfoundland and Labrador was given a box of chocolates or toffees, and it was such a rush to get them in here. They actually airdropped them into communities around Newfoundland and Labrador so that every child would have their box of chocolates, toffees to have
so
for
literally
the Queens.
Boxes of toffees were
coming from the
sky.
Yeah. Treats coming from the sky from the royal family, so that every child would have a souvenir.
What I find interesting here is it was companies as well that got into this. You know, we have Purity Factories here with a calendar for 1954, so people, could hang it on their wall and for an entire year, advertising for them, but also clearly it was important enough that they figured people would want to have the Queen up, the new Queen up in their homes.
Yes, well, she was a very glamorous figure. Of course, she was a fashion icon at the time period. She was very well respected. Like the royal families all through history, the British royal family kind of defined our fashion periods and our style periods. I've already started referring to the past period as the Elizabethan period, Elizabeth II period. So, we talk about the evolution of style. It's usually related to a member of the royal family's reign. But Newfoundland was a place where everybody came. Everybody stopped here to refuel, and so she had been here, and Prince Philip had been here several times before. So they already had this developed relationship with the royal family. It's interesting that we have a lot of physical documentation of the Queen's coronation, and we have more imagery of the kings, George and King Edward. Coronation, but we don't have very much of the Queen's coronation documented in photographs, which we would really like if people have photographs of the Queen's coronation that they have in their family. I would like to see them.
I guess the other thing that's important to point out is before Queen Elizabeth, Newfoundland and Labrador was a colony, and in fact, so some of those ties to Britain, the Union Jack was the flag, all these things were a whole lot stronger than they maybe are felt today, which is why people would have wanted to have biscuit tins and other things in their homes that have members of the royal family's faces right on there.
Yeah, we would have the hanging in our house. You have the picture of Jesus, the crucifix, and the Queen all together in your kitchen. Yeah, and in my family, we had all kinds of items with the Queen on it. My mom was a big royal collector, and a lot of people in Newfoundland and Labrador are big royal collectors, and a lot of this collections comes from people who had these big collections of royal family items and then donated here to the Rooms once they started downsizing.
Yeah. Well, interesting. Thanks so much for showing off some of these items from coronations past, and I guess probably on the lookout for various items from this coronation that you'll want to be putting away for generations in the future to remember this day as well.
Yes, I've already been looking because they've already launched their gift store online to see what we can collect for this coronation.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Well, the pageantry of the coronation stands in stark contrast to the times, and that contrast between awe-inspiring ceremonies and grinding inflation is getting attention. The CBC's Margaret Evans has that story.
Call it a pre-game strategy for the coronation. The Prince and Princess of Wales dispatched for a few photo ops, taking the tube, no less, en route to a Soho pub called the Dog and Duck. William pulled the first pint of Kingmaker's Ale, created in honor of his father. The hospitality sector hoping to cash in over the coronation weekend.
It's been a tough couple of years for pubs with the pandemic, people working from home.
Britain is also currently in the midst of a biting cost of living crisis. British taxpayers won't know just how much the coronation is going to cost them until after it's all over. Buckingham Palace insists it's worth the return, both in terms of global prestige and maybe in an economic boost for pubs like the ones they've just visited. Tourism numbers are also expected to jump. 30,000 more foreign visitors to London than you'd normally see this time of year.
We decided that this would be a really great opportunity to come and see a very historic moment.
We enjoy the theater, we enjoy the pomp and all of that. I mean, we do see the other side of it.
The palace says it is economizing in line with the times. King Charles' guest list, for example, 2,000 strong, compared to over 8,000 at his mother's coronation. And they've issued releases about reupholstering throne chairs and recycling ceremonial gloves. But that doesn't translate very well at charities helping people cope with an inflation rate of 10% and energy bills that have doubled.
The United Kingdom has a very big issue with class, massive issue.
Joshua Munro volunteers for his uncle at an East London charity. They collect surplus food from supermarkets and get it to 37 other hubs. His uncle was even rewarded for his work by the Queen, but Munro says the monarchy has much work to do.
If they find ways to connect with all British people in modern Britain, then maybe it will survive. It's hard to really see Britain without it, but we might be able to manage it.
From where he stands, Soho and the Dog and Duck seem very far away. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
I was just surprised how people were so excited about Cinco de Mayo, and then learning that, people think that it's the Mexican independence when it is not.
Well, it's a favorite day for many foodies, but Cinco de Mayo may not be what you think. That's coming up next. Well, today is the 5th of May, or if you're a fan of tacos and margaritas, perhaps it's Cinco de Mayo. It's a day when some people like to celebrate Mexican culture and food, especially in the United States, where the amount of beer sold today will rival the Super Bowl. Well, you might be surprised with how people in Mexico celebrate the day. Santiago Guzman is a Newfoundlander, originally from Mexico. He's traveling right now, and we've reached him in Halifax. So, Santiago, when you grew up in Mexico, how was Cinco de Mayo celebrated?
Well, non-existent. It was not a thing. It is not a thing. I'm so sorry, everybody, but Cinco de Mayo, it's not really a thing. I think I came to hear from Cinco de Mayo when I moved to Canada. I think at first I heard about it in the States. And I was just surprised how people were so excited about Cinco de Mayo, and then learning that, people think that it's the Mexican independence when it is not.
Okay, so where did this come from? What is Cinco de Mayo actually? Like, what are people celebrating here?
Yeah, well, I don't know. You tell me. Cinco de Mayo really, what it's celebrating is a battle so just a little bit of context. Mexico was colonized by Spain in the 1500s. And then in the 1810, Mexico declared itself independent from Spain. And then, there were a lot of things going on at the time. But then in 1862, the French army was going to invade for the second time Mexico. Now, at the time, that invasion was stopped by the Mexican army. And that was such a huge accomplishment, because at the time, I think it was Napoleon's army that were defeated. So it was such a huge deal. However, a year later, France did invade Mexico for a bit. So, when you think about what is Cinco de Mayo, it's really just a celebration of one little victory, and, amongst so many battles that my country has had. But then I think that the assumption that Cinco de Mayo is our independence, it's completely false.
Okay, so when is Mexican independence? When is the big celebration that you would normally have in Mexico?
Yeah, so that would be September 16th. That would be when we actually, in Mexico, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving as such. So the Mexican independence is really the day that we celebrate or that we gather in big families just to see each other, and we cook traditional meals and gather, and it's a big party. So actually, it's funny that our Mexican independence celebration is our national party.
Right. So is there anything wrong with folks if they want to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? They want to have some tacos and margaritas and, be able to enjoy Mexican food?
Listen, you do you, boo. Like, you can do whatever you want. I think that if you want to celebrate Cinco de Mayo, that's fine. I love to celebrate my country every day, and also eat beautiful and delicious tacos and drink margaritas. I would just say, support Mexican-owned businesses. If you're trying to celebrate Cinco de Mayo today, look for your Latinx Mexican businesses in your community and go celebrate there. And I'm sure that you will get not only the celebration part, but also the authentic flavors of my country.
Well, thanks so much for coming and giving us a little bit of a history lesson. And I guess we'll, if we want to be authentic, September will be the time to maybe pull out some of those Mexican recipes and do that celebration.
Let's do that. And September 12th is my birthday, so maybe we can celebrate twice.
More than 13,000 people in Alberta have been forced from their homes with the approach of spring wildfires. 7,000 residents were told to leave a community west of Edmonton last night. They're being directed to a centre in Edmonton. Across the province, though, there are more than 70 fires. 19 of them are out of control as of earlier today. Fires in more remote parts of the province have seen people taken to safety by boat, barge, and, as you can see there, helicopter. A fire in northwestern Saskatchewan has forced more people from their homes today. Buses loaded early this morning with people from the community of La Loc. Neighboring Clearwater River Dene Nation had also issued a mandatory evacuation order late on Wednesday. At last report, the fire spanned more than 200 hectares. Some damage has been reported, but none to homes so far. Well, the World Health Organization is declaring an end to COVID-19 as a global health emergency. But the head of the UN Health Agency warns that it doesn't mean the pandemic itself is over.
The worst thing any country could do now is to use this news as a reason to let down its God, to dismantle the systems it has built, or to send the message to its people that COVID-19 is nothing to worry about.
It had been put in place in the early days of the pandemic and before any effective vaccine was developed. At its peak in January 2021, the pandemic killed more than 100,000 people every week. The latest WHO data for the week of April 24th shows the rate has slowed to 3,500 deaths. It's time now to take a look at who's celebrating this weekend. Happy 59th anniversary to Stanley and Ellen Saunders from Cox's Cove. Happy 51st anniversary to Sharon and Roy Wells. Wishing Cyril and Clara Troke of Paradise a happy 65th anniversary. It's also a big one, 65th anniversary for Kitty and Edgar Stratton of Massey Drive. Happy 55th anniversary going out to Bill and Ruth Seymour of Butlerville. It's a 65th anniversary for Woodrow and Peggy Chalk from Deer Lake. Doug and Phyllis Perry of Glovertown are celebrating their 62nd wedding anniversary.
And a very happy 56th wedding anniversary to Edith and John Forsey from Seal Cove, Fortune Bay. Happy 57th anniversary to Frank and Sandra Drover of Hodges Cove. Happy 56th to Mary and Herman Firmage of Wareham. Mr. and Mrs. William Shears of Parsons Pond are celebrating a 55th anniversary. Bonnie and Wayne Hewitt of Gander are celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary. Happy 51st anniversary to Tom and Betty Foley of St. John's. Happy 67th anniversary to Mike and Catherine Power of Capeland Cove, Conception Bay.
Now to some birthdays. Happy 95th birthday to Flora Canning of Comfort Cove, Newstead. Happy birthday to Anita Penton of Joe Bat's Arm, Fogo Island, who is celebrating her 91st birthday. Rachel McKay is turning 99 years old. She now lives in Robinsons. Happy birthday to Fred Hall of St. John's, who is celebrating 90 years today. Happy birthday to Christina Dufresne, formerly of Stephenville, now living in Kitchener, Ontario, who is celebrating her 99th birthday. 92nd birthday greetings going out to Donald Noble of Victoria Cove, Gander Bay. Happy 90th birthday to Father Michael Horlick of St. John's.
Special birthday greetings going out to Susie Carter of Ship Island, Greens Pond, currently living in New West Valley. She is celebrating her 90th birthday. Happy birthday to Betty Freak, who will be 96. She lives in Grand Falls, Windsor. Happy 93rd birthday to Gerald Humber. Happy 92nd birthday going out to Lydia Fewer, currently living in Clarenville. And finally, a happy birthday, 90 years, to Don Hiscock of St. John's.
You know, this is the time of year where I really feel like Labrador starts to get the upper hand when it comes to the weather. Like, yes, the winters are a whole lot colder, but now I start looking at their forecast and I go, ooh, why don't I live in Labrador again?
I know, that's what I was thinking when I was giving out the weather on the radio earlier. 13, 14 degrees.
17
absolutely
in Lab West.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Sadly, we can't bottle it, and that could be like, never mind iron ore. If we could export that warm weather, they would make a killing. But
That's
unfortunately, we haven't mastered that technology, so we're stuck with RDF.
RDF, yeah, and it looks like that'll continue overnight into tomorrow. We're going to get some increasing cloud in the overnight here on the east coast, where we're seeing all that RDF, and along the north coast of the island and coastal Labrador as well. Sunday, not looking too bad. Dare I say the word sun?
Ooh, the S word.
However, there could be a chance of showers or rain. Let's take a look. Saturday evening, here we go. We still see a lot of that cloud cover across much of the island. See a little bit of mixing in through central there. Let's take a closer look now as how things are going to shape up on Sunday. You see some showers for the Northern Peninsula possible there as well. Taking a closer look here now. So on Sunday, mix of sun and cloud for St. John's and the Avalon. However, we could see a chance of showers. Heading on into central Newfoundland, mix of sun and cloud, 10 degrees. Also, chance of showers possible for Gander into Grand Falls, Windsor. However, if we take a look down here on the Burin Peninsula, you get some sun. No showers here right now for you folks, and on in Port Basque as well. As we go a little bit further west, it looks as though it could be a mix of sun and cloud and then a chance of showers for you folks as well. Same thing as we head up to the west coast, but once we get to the Northern Peninsula, it'll be a little bit more cloudy and we will see a chance of showers there, but not the sun. We'll lose that chance of seeing the sun. And into Cartwright along coastal Labrador, we will see more of a mix, a chance of snow, rain mix, a little bit of showers chance there, that for you, 2 degrees. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, some showers for you. Nain, some flurries, a high of 3 degrees. And for Labrador City, Wabush area, we could see some flurries there as well, and 4 degrees. Now, Sunday into the overnight, we still see a lot of that unsettled weather and some rain. It looks like sweeping across much of the island, especially that eastern half up into the northern peninsula. It looks as though we could see a few flurries, some mix possible, and some flurries possible for much of Labrador. Let's move on into the future tracker, taking a closer look. And you can see here that we will have showers here in St. John's, 7 degrees, so still feeling fairly warm, fairly seasonal. For Gander and Grand Falls, or Gander especially, it looks like it could be a mix. Marystown will have a chance of showers as well, and some rain into Grand Falls, Windsor, and West as we head to the west coast as well, and down around the southwest coast for Port aux Basques. It looks like we could see some rain there as well. Into Labrador, looking like a bit of a better day, some flurries, a bit of mix possible. Happy Valley Goose Bay with some sun and some flurries in Labrador City, Wabush. Taking a look now at our 5-day forecast. That's that mix on Saturday. Some precipitation, not looking like a great weekend or early start to your week. Could we see a change come Wednesday? Let's cross all of our fingers and toes into the central and western parts of the island. Starting with central, looking pretty similar. Temperatures ranging between 5 and 10 degrees with some cloud on Wednesday. Western Newfoundland, flurries possible tomorrow. Again, mix of sun and cloud on Wednesday. And into Labrador there, it looks as though things pretty similar for you folks. Let's get to our photo. Smashing Seas, I call this one. Comes from Tilting in Fogo. And if you have any weather photos, you can send them any of these ways listed below.
What a beautiful shot.
Indeed.
And hopefully everyone gets a bit of sun this weekend. That's it for us. Have a great weekend, everyone.